Good morning, everybody. Pop in. Happy Monday. Welcome back to school, maybe. Pickles pig feet. Pickled pig feet, huh? Is that your real name? That's right, I forgot something. In the other room. We're going to put up my reference screen. Your favorite food, huh? Fill in the gaps here. That's the plan. So I've got little gaps here. I like to do this thing where I fill up every part of the page I can. So I got one there, maybe here, definitely there, there. Hopefully finish off this page. So she's still there, so maybe we'll just keep going with the crazy eyes. Did they change something on Pinterest where you can't like zoom in on the pictures? You used to be able to zoom in, or maybe it's just this one. I'll try downloading the image and see what happens. It actually downloaded? It did. Alright, now I can zoom in. And let's see. Turn off request to go live, sorry. Alright, so let's just start over here. So I'll do his mouth. Oh my god, I got my good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope we get back to that sketch I started started inking yesterday. Got a sleepy dog under my feet. I got to write up some assignments today. So, but not a big deal. Good morning. Sometimes they'd ask any questions or bring up topics. Kind of the way people kind of come and go in here. It's not always easy to tell who wants to hear about what. looking at these teeth. I need to find a dentist. Hopefully, I need to look and see what my Benny's benefits are. I know I have that covered. It just kind of falls in that category of not an art thing. And something to think about so I've got this fantasy sci-fi illustration class I'm doing this semester, and I'm going to be from my own projects, so that it'll kind of benefit me. But I was thinking, is have like two like main assignments, and then maybe do a third one where I define some parameters for it, but how many years of practice? I don't know. Probably should be better than I am. But I am 47. So um, but I think maybe the last project is have them research a market in a project and pitch it. Because it's like a higher level class. It assumes that they've had certain classes already. I think that actually might be a good idea. There we go. Just a little thought that just popped in my brain right now because I haven't finished putting together that class yet. So I probably just need to get a new blot sheet over there. So I don't know. I think that might be a good idea because that way it helps them kind of use that for future projects. I think it's an opportunity to define something meets their interests. What I'm trying to do in my university classes is kind of help them look beyond the illustration a bit into the actual design process of their pictures. So they're seeing kind of where it actually gets used and how, and I don't know. That's what I've been thinking about. I would push that beyond. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about. So, put together kind of a recipe for a project, so it has like a lot of blank spots on it for them to fill in. Should you keep grinding? Well, it depends on what you're grinding at, right? There's they say practice makes perfect, but really it's perfect practice makes perfect. So it depends on kind of what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish. Um, as I know, people obviously have a lot of concerns about a number of things, legitimate concerns. And my argument is, in spite of all the things that are going on, that um, ultimately, you want to do is develop extreme competence, because there will always be, no matter what, a need for people who are excellent. I can definitely get better myself. I've been at this a long time, and one of the principles that I like to talk about that I think is really, really important is that you need to know more. Well, you need to know more than you need to know because you don't know what you need to know. And a lot of people kind of get satisfied with knowing just enough, or the pursuit of just enough, knowledge or skills or whatever. And the fact is, things change and things get updated, and there's this problem or that problem. And I'll try to stick something in these spots. Let's see if I can find here. Where all my mechanical pipes go. So one of the things I do like to really advocate for is that people keep learning. Because I will meet people who are, it's kind of fun. They kind of like are stopped where they're at, and maybe that's perfectly fine for them what they do, but it doesn't really work for me. And because I've always just found like if I don't understand something, I really need to kind of fill in that gap. And especially if it's something I want to use or think might be important. Like I can't know everything, but I can know more than I do now. And I've definitely learned a lot of stuff over the last few years for an assortment of reasons. And I think it's improved my art, even stuff outside of art making. So definitely keep it up. Don't stop. It does help to have a goal in mind. What is it you're trying to do? So if you're just kind of randomly doing stuff, that could be a good place to start. But as you kind of go along, you look at people's work or projects that you think you'd like to do, or the type of things you'd like to do. Whether it's making a game or a painting or whatever. You know, any of that can be really can help you kind of lock in what you're owning, or artists that are doing things that you would like to do. What do they know? What are they able to do that you don't understand? It's like one of the things I've been studying a lot is story structure and pacing and things like that related to crafting stories, because it's one of the things that I want to do is tell the story, and I feel like there's a good one in there. I've got the structure mostly laid out now. Now it's a matter of figuring out pacing and names and putting it out there. But you know, you don't get that unless you've got curiosity for it and a willingness to invest your time into it. Like this right here came from me always kind of just being curious about something, but never getting into it until recently. And I'm still, not skilled at it at all, I would say. But I picked up an airbrush a year and a half ago. Bought it. I didn't actually open it though until a couple months ago. And I had to kind of leave it alone for a bit while I was out of town. But it's definitely something that I want to incorporate into what I do. There's certain things it does that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for everything, but as I learn about how to use it, I'll see other things that people do, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was possible. And you only become aware of that if you study something. Learning how things work and why, expands your creative potential. And if you just kind of pause, then how do you get hired by studios? So I've never worked for a comic book studio personally, but the general thing for getting hired is you got to have a portfolio. A portfolio that shows you can do consistent work that matches their needs. So if you want to work for like Marvel or DC or any other, whoever else you're thinking of, they need to be able to see what you can do. And a lot of that involves, not just good drawing. That's like level 1 is good drawing in their mind. Like that just comes assumed. What I've consistently heard them all say is they're really looking for is good storytellers. So being able to take your drawing skills and tell a story, show how characters interact, how they're set in scenes, different kinds of scenes and shots, establishing and close-ups and medium shots and dynamic angles, and then other things that are more, comic book specific. But that's what they want to see. They don't want to see your figure drawings. They want to see your finished penciled pages or finished penciled and inked pages. Or if you're into coloring, they're colored pages. So all the skills that are associated with that, like good figure drawing and facial expressions and gesture drawing and good proportion, consistent proportions, all of that's really important. That's kind of all. Those are all the technical aspects, and then underlying all of that, of course, is the storytelling that's necessary for all of that. And that's ultimately what they'll want to see from you is that, oh yeah, sure, you can draw, but can you tell a story? And that's the difference between, that's what separates the pros from everybody else is really that. Oh, it does zoom. You have to just, I see. I hate when they change interfaces and it's a little vague on things. I've just, got Pinterest up over here. So that's what I would say. That's true of any studio, right? So, like, if you're showing off, if you want to be a concept artist, you have to put together a portfolio that shows that you can draw and explain things visually, and then you've got some storytelling chops and something that makes your work interesting. Because when they're looking at your portfolio, they're not thinking about how to take care of you. They're thinking about how you can take care of them. And a lot of time artists, they have that backwards mentality where they think, oh, the studio is there to be my parent and raise me and give me money and etc. And you might get that to a certain degree, but ultimately, the organization exists for itself, and the people working in it, they've got their own goals and objectives, and they need to see that you're going to help them achieve certain things. So that's the other side of that equation. So ultimately, you got to have all those basic skills of drawing and perspective and expressions and whatnot, but you need to understand storytelling and how to do that visually so that they can see that you're going to be the kind of artist that can help them. Like, you can do a pretty drawing, but that's not the most important thing. That just gets assumed. Hello over there on Twitter. I think that's the least active platform I'm streaming to, which is kind of sad. Over on Twitch, I mean, not Twitter. What did I say, Twitch or Twitter? I'm just working on my warm-ups this morning, where I jump into finishing up what I started yesterday, and then I gotta get classes going. Filling in the gaps in this sketchbook page. It's mostly Pinterest reference, but soften that line. So that's what I think. Yeah, that's the thing. Is you got to get that ultimate end goal is that portfolio that conveys your ability to do the job, and that you're gonna be able to help them out. And then when you do get the interview or the conversation, then you can prove you're not totally a crazy person, and they can work with you. Then I guess you're in. So yeah, so if you're kind of still a beginner, I would definitely work on those foundational skills. But if you want to do comics, I would start making comics, even if you're not good at them. What are all the pens I use? Well, this is one of them, right? So this is a G pen nib right here. That's what I'm using right now. And then I draw with this pencil. It's a 2mm red lead. I think the lead is from Uniball. And then I just bought this red holder for it. Josana. I've been using this parallel pen a lot. It's got a flat edge on it. And then I've got two of those. Been using this one a lot lately too. It's a Type C calligraphy pen or nib. I think Speedball, and I like using these Sumi brushes. Um, Takes some practice because they're a little floppy, but once you kind of get into them, they're nice to use. Somewhere I've got Hunt 102. I'll stab myself with it. I'm hiding Hunt 102. Be careful because it's really sharp and it's shorter. Must be somewhere else. I also like using, this is one of several, but I like using these rapidographs. So I like to use tools that let me use real ink. I have markers and things I'll use in sketchbooks for convenience, but I like to be able to use real ink, not marker ink. So and then the way that I'm kind of got these all set up is I'm using the same ink for everything. So I'm using rapidograph ink. I might go back to the super black, try that one out, just because I did see it's non-clogging. It might just be the same ink as rapidograph, but hello over there on Kick. Just working on my little warm-ups page here. A bunch of reference I'm sketching from Pinterest. As the source, mostly except for this guy. But, yeah, so that's mostly what I've been using. I've got other things too, but that's like 90% of it. All right, Bosch. I got a dog under my feet. Brush. I used a airbrush right here. Which is kind of something that's new in my toolkit. It's nothing I'm like very good at yet. I made kind of a mess the other day with it, not realizing I had changed some stuff on it, but and I'd forgotten about it because it's been so long. And then me not realizing that caused me some problems. So a user error situation, and then in trying to fix the problem, actually caused new problems, which is at least entertaining, I suppose. But I figured it out eventually. It did take a while, a lot longer than I would like to admit, but I did figure it out. Can I draw king salmon? I don't know who that is. I've got kind of this weird thing. I'm not really like a fan art person. I'll do copies, studies of other artists' work, but I don't really ever tend to do like any fan art at all. Maybe I should look into that. I just don't. Um, I haven't in a very, 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 very long time. And part of it is I just only have so much time. The King of Saudi Arabia, huh? Oh, Salman, not salmon. I don't know who that is. So the House of Saud, right? I don't know anything about Saudi Arabia except where it is. Which I guess is, something. I don't know. Yeah, it's just never factored very much into my consideration. Maybe it should. I don't know. You're flopped over. Gosh, let me put your ear. There we go. That's better. Sometimes my dog, his ear gets flopped. I'm gonna stick it in here. One of her eyes. Oop. But yeah, hopefully I get good. I've got my own little comic project I'm working on. I don't know if any of that prior stuff answered that question for the guy with the question about, you know, getting into comics. All quiet on the Western Front, huh? So I come up, for about an hour to do this kind of warm up stuff. So, 30 minutes in. Is a red sketch better than a pencil sketch? Is the question. No, I just like to color red. Um, in terms of like an underdrawing for um, comics or other things, when you would do an ink drawing, you used to have to use what's called non-photo repro blue. So it was a color blue that a copy machine or a drum scanner couldn't see, and so it would just leave the black behind or the ink behind, anything that wasn't blue, and anyway, scanning technology and Photoshop or other image editing programs have changed that. So, it doesn't really matter what color you use, as far as I can tell. Still see a lot of people using the non-photo repro blue, but um, I like the red just because I like it. It feels like it brings a certain amount of life to things for me. Also pairs well with blue. So, I just like it. There's another color I have. It's actually water soluble. It's a medium vermilion by Derwent Inktense. I haven't used that one in a while, but I like it too. Like it's like a orangey red. So bath, oh gosh. So that's why I just like it. I also like to pair again with like a blue colored pencil. It makes like a nice kind of purple where they mix and has I think a nice effect. This is like one of my warm-up pages. So I like to go through and kind of fill in the gaps. Make sure these are separated out. Yeah, trying to get back to working on this pitch that I want to put together, put out there. See if I can't get it somewhere. And go from there. But let's see, I'll put this one here. This Russian girl with the facial expression, she's definitely having a moment. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, but yeah, so if you're looking to get into that, any kind of area, that's the big thing is like making a portfolio that's attractive to someone. So in comics, that would obviously be comic pages showing you can tell a story. So that's good in there. And come down here. Fill that in. Yeah, I never hesitate to, I guess I should bring this over here. So zooming in over here to work anyway for the rest. For the Insta people. Hey, Bosh, how you doing? Yeah? The dog is giving me a very serious look. I don't know why. I'm just trying to figure out what's next. So... that's a kind of a big question. Um, for that, I might look at, well, there's always the classic um, Marvel How to Draw Comics, the Marvel Way book, which I think is a really, really good one. I think it gets forgotten from time to time, But it's funny, I've gone into it, over the last couple of years looking at it, and I realized a lot of the things I teach my students were already there, and I didn't know it was in there. I didn't learn it from it, but they're like tried and true things. Like one of the things they show in there, actually, I should maybe go grab it real quick. It's just behind me on the wall. It's also not very expensive, and I think everything in there is like tried and true. So this is the book here. And again, you can get it really inexpensive. You can probably get a used copy for almost nothing. But one of the things they really point out in terms of storytelling, if I can find the pages. Yeah, here they go. So there's like a basic scenes right here. So they're showing the scene where these two people are having an argument, and one of the things they're pointing out is that these scenes right here, like if you just compare this one right here, where he's got the cigar and he's looking over to the side, that's a boring composition. Where this one over here, it's the same story beat, but now it's you're looking down on him. It's more dynamic. He's coming towards you. It's more expressive. Same right here, where like these two characters are having an argument. He's folded his arms, so he's got a good gesture. He's saying, I don't want to do it. This guy's saying, you must do it. But then you come over to this one, it's way more dynamic, right? So it's he's standing above him, yelling at him. They're facing different angles from each other, so it's just more interesting. And that there's like there's a number of examples they provide in here where they show that. So like here's a zoom in on that a little bit more for the Instagram people. But yeah, here's Jonah Jameson yelling at Peter Parker on the phone, right? I'm mad at you. Well, this one here is way more dynamic. It's the same thing, it's just more expressive. So I definitely recommend this book. It's got a lot of, it's got your usual, how to draw expressions and drawing the human figure, good gestures and things like that. And it's an older style, but nothing in here has really changed. There's stuff here on perspective, and so I think it's a good place to start. Is a book like that. I think something like that makes a big difference. But it's a lot of practice. You look at people who are really, really great artists out there for comics or anything else. They put in an extreme amount of effort. It's funny. I looked up myself. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I was just curious, and I looked myself up on my art professor or ratemyprofessor.com, and just to see what people say. And one of the students in there was complaining that they spent way too much time in my class doing homework, 7 to 9 hours a week. And I looked at that, and I'm like, I don't know, that sounds about right to me. I mean, that's not bad. Because I always tell students they should spend, around 6 focused hours each week on the class. And just as a rough estimate, week to week. And sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending on, what's going on. But but one of the things that I've kind of seen, and maybe this is always true because part of it is my bias is self-selecting. So I've got experiences that I've had and attitudes I've always had that I know other students when I was in school didn't always have, and I've ones that I've definitely improved over time. But I always felt like I was working really hard, even whether I was or not. That I wanted to spend all my time doing this stuff. But one of the big pieces of advice I got in terms of like effort and time came from one of my mentors, a guy named William Whitaker. He's since passed away. You can look up his art. He kind of does guess we call them like soft kind of paintings. I guess I don't know. They're very. It's like pretty girls standing around with pottery and rugs. But he was really generous with his instruction and time, and it really helped me out. He's since passed away a number of years ago, but he definitely was there to help me. But he, one of his comments is that if you really want to be good at art, is you really have to train like this is the Olympics. That you have to get really good, and it's a hard thing to do, and you just need to spend a lot of time. And, it should be smartly spent time, and you do need to take breaks from time to time. But I found like there's a kind of this idea of balance in kind of your efforts to become excellent that I think is counterproductive to achieving that. That it takes an extreme amount of effort to get really good. And that far too often I see in students kind of a casualness to their pursuit of their skills that's getting in their way. And it gets in a broad variety of areas, but mostly it's just they're kind of looking at things. Well, I want to spend my time playing my video games or scrolling on social media or hanging out with my friends, and those are all good things. But if you want to become really, really good at something, you do have to kind of lock into like a really tight, intense schedule. Like it needs to be your obsession. If it's not your obsession to do art, if it's not something you're willing to sacrifice a lot of time and effort to, then it's a fine hobby, but that's all it'll ever be. And you know, that's something to think about, right? It says you need to, it helps to have a schedule. Like for me, one of the things that I like to do is this morning warm up thing where I come on for about an hour. I might stay a little longer depending on how long it takes to finish off this page, but yeah, I put a lot of time into practicing certain skills that I wasn't that great at before. In the last, even in the last little while, last couple of years, because I recognized that I had certain weaknesses that I needed to deal with. And in the process of seeing those weaknesses, I read, okay, this is what I need to do to fill in those gaps so I can do the project that I want to do. So there's always something new. But yeah, part of it's just having that work ethic that you're going to spend the time to do things. And if you've got another job or other responsibilities, then you just kind of have to work around those. But you still got to put in the time and the effort. It might take you longer, but as long as you've got that focus and you're sticking with it, it's still achievable. Oh, my nose. Excuse me. But but yeah, that's I would look at that Marvel book. I think would be really helpful. And then in terms of like learning storytelling, I would look at finding scripts. Like you can find movie scripts online. I was playing around with that a year or so ago, where I took the script of Blade Runner and illustrated one of the scenes as a comic. It's the first time I'd ever really done comic pages like that, and it's not perfect, but I learned a lot doing it. So that's one thing you can do is like find a script. You might be able to find comic scripts and use those, but you can use movie scripts. There's kind of a similar formatting that they often use. There isn't like one way to format comic scripts, but I would maybe try and find some scripts and then use those to create your own. Or if you've got your own scripts, you can write those. So that might be one area too, if you want to practice the storytelling, is get those scripts. And then you can watch the movie and see how they solve the problem and use that as a guide for how you do things too, but also paying attention to the special requirements in comics. So, but again, there are unique things for comics that are different than film. You can do vertical formats. You can do so there's distinctive qualities. Um, it was funny. A number of years ago, I was doing a project based on a friend bringing me in, and they. I realized after I was done with this project that I really didn't know anything about cinematic storytelling, like camera angles and shots and things like that. I just didn't. Hadn't been a part of my education at all. Most had traditional kind of print market illustrators as my instructors, um, rather than comics or concept art or anything like that. Like that was barely a subject when I was in school. That's a much more popular one. But yeah, find some scripts. But, find a movie you really like and get some scripts for it. Find the scripts and maybe select a scene or two that's the kind of thing you want to do, and that can be a good way to practice. Some people like to do like journal comics. So basically, you take your week and you find an event or a conversation or an experience that you turn into a comic story, right? So you take a single page and like it's a conversation at a store, or meeting with your friends, or going to a class, or whatever it is you're doing, going to work. Uh, Turn that into a story representing that experience. So that's another one that I've seen people do. Again, my comic experience is relatively limited. Um, but in the meantime, you can be working on your story or whatever it is you want to do. And actually, I'll fill in this area here. I guess I could fill in those blacks over there real quick. Like I've been going through and kind of watching films lately and TV shows, things that I missed. Actually, speaking of comic stuff, it was funny. I started watching this new Daredevil Born Again series, which I guess they're not going the actual comic book route in that show on Disney, which is kind of sad. The comic book one's really intense. Like it's the what's her face, the girl character. She goes and forget her name, but she gets like involved in drugs, and that's part of how you know Daredevil's identity gets released into the world and causes him all kinds of problems. But um, but it doesn't. At least I haven't watched the whole thing, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But so I'll have to see. But I was watching it, and he's meeting with the kingpin in this diner, and I'm looking at this diner. I'm like, it seems it's kind of your standard looking diner in New York, kind of old school, narrow building. And I'm like, yeah, the building kind of looks familiar inside. And I probably ate there a dozen, you know, the diner I was thinking of was like, I'd probably been there like a dozen times. So this one's like, is this the same diner that I like ate at when I was living in New York all the time, or when I was in grad school? And watching, and I'm like, well, it's hard to tell from the inside because maybe it's just regular looking diner or whatever, but decorated a certain way. And so I'm looking through the windows of it, and I'm like, wait a second, there's this giant, like 2-story brick wall that you can see across the street. Hey, wait a second, that's the New York Academy, or it's where it is the same diner. Because I went to New York Academy, and that diner's like right up the street from it, and yeah, they're eating in my diner, which I didn't realize. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, yeah, I've been there. I remember living in New York, and I'd see them filming TV shows once in a couple times. I didn't see it a lot because I really wasn't looking for it or thinking about it too much. But like I came across right over in that same area. There's a subway stop that I could get off of all the time, and I think it's the A line or it's either that or the red 123 stop. I can't remember which one it is, but it's there right next to the school. Um, um, but yeah, so I saw them filming Law and Order at that station once, and then this is back in 2008 to 2010 to 2012, 2008 to 2010. Sorry, and I also saw them filming Fringe once. Walking through, and there was the main character. She was like in the middle of the street, and they were filming her do something. And I was just not far from where the school's at. There's a lot of popular kind of filming locations, obviously, in New York City. Yeah, anything you do. The big thing with practicing anything is just getting work down. One of the things I've found is a lot of times people hesitate to do something because they want it to be perfect. And the fact is like your first thing will never be perfect. But a lot of people also worry that they won't have something else. And one of the things that's important to think about with art stuff is that usually, not always, but usually, um, basically what you do will suggest other things to do. And so by doing something, it's going to kind of open up possibilities. And so the more that you do, the more possibilities will become available, will unlock, I guess, in your mind. Because as you do things, those things that you're doing will suggest other things. As long as you pay attention to them, you'll effectively have an endless supply of things to do. A lot of times where like depression factors into that kind of thing is where people don't do things, like they hesitate, they hold back. Um, and as a result, like because you're not doing anything, you get depressed, and it's kind of a cycle the other way where you don't do things, and so the depression increases, you do less and less, and you get bigger and bigger problems. Whereas if you've got an active project you're working on, and you're developing it, that project itself will suggest more and more and more things over time. Maybe eventually you'll run out of stuff, but that should keep you sustained for many, 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 many years, if not a lifetime. So I know I've got enough ideas that I've forgotten, much less the ones I remember, to last me of multiple lifetimes, if I could do that. So, thinking about that, that came from writer, rather. She wrote a book called The Writing Life. In there, she talks about this idea of, if you hold back, you're just going to lose it. You don't bring it into the world; it gets forgotten. Whereas if you do it, it's brought into the world, and that thing will suggest other things. And she says, give it all now. Especially like if you haven't done much, the work that you do now tends to be too precious to you. So a lot of students they tend to look at what they have, and it's like, well, I've only got so many illustrations or so many sketchbooks or whatever, paintings or figure drawings, and they're hesitant to throw things away or start new things or trade or sell things just because they don't have very much yet. And so they're kind of over protective of what they have rather than knowing that they're going to make more. I ran into that actually as a personal experience. There's a painter named Nicolas Uribe. He's I think he's from Colombia. Lives in Colombia now. He studied a lot in the U.S. But I had an opportunity when I was first kind of getting into landscape painting to trade one of my landscapes with them. He wanted one, and I didn't because I wanted to give it to a gallery. I wanted to sell it. I don't think it ever sold. But he was wanted to trade, and I regret not doing that trade. Something I think about. So it's like, and because at the time, I only had so many landscapes at a certain quality, and I was very hesitant to, give something away like that because I only had, 10 or 12 that I really liked that I, considered finished studio pieces. And because of that, I lost out on an opportunity because I wasn't thinking in terms of expanding, a future where I would have a lot. Is where I was thinking, well, I just have these ones, and I don't want to, give something away because I only have so many. And that was definitely a mistake. So I think about the lesson I learned doing that. I don't sit around going, "Oh, woe is me! I'll never, have an opportunity like that again." I just think, well, I missed out, and something to think about later. My stream isn't properly loading now, huh? Oh, it looks like I've got some. I just see that. Sorry, I just saw your note. I don't know. It says I'm getting a bunch of dropped frames. It looks like maybe my internet connection is being weird. That happens sometimes. So now it says it's coming back. No, it's bad again. I just looked up and saw your comment over there on Twitch. I don't know. Hopefully, it's not affecting my phone here, but yeah, it looks like my internet connection is really bad right now. All of a sudden, I'm not sure why it would be. When I was away during Christmas at home, um, I saw that I'd get all these notifications that they were working on my internet, and I don't know if there's some kind of problem in the neighborhood or what, but looks like it's coming back now. For now, is it back for you over there on Twitch? No, there it goes again. Hopefully it's okay here on Instagram. Yeah, it looks like there's some kind of weird connection problem. I don't know, is my dog watching something on the movie, on the TV? Yeah, I don't know why it's dropping off. Like, it just keeps popping up and down. I haven't seen any notifications from them if they're working on something in the neighborhood. It does seem like that's a pretty frequent thing, though, around here. I live downtown in Richmond, and you can hear well enough. Well, I guess that's good, right? I'm streaming over on YouTube and Twitch and these other places under my art professor over my desk, and I've got a big camera, or not big, but a regular camera up there with a big lens, and but something's up with the internet. Kind of keeps coming and going, but definitely it's easier for these systems to transfer audio than video. It's good to know, though. I appreciate people telling me. I wish I don't know what's up. I'll have to double check the systems. So, but almost done here anyway. So I'm going to finish off this little corner here, and that'll finish off the page. Um, yeah, it's just dropping frames off and on. Don't like that, obviously. I should look into one of the things I've been thinking about doing. Maybe as we get closer to spring, is moving the studio stuff downstairs. So I come into summer and I have to run a window air conditioner upstairs, otherwise it just gets really hot. And been thinking that I don't have to do that downstairs, so it'll stay quieter. And there's a little more room. I just have to kind of readjust how I've got things all set up, and then I could wire directly into the modem down there. I guess I could do it up here, but I'd have to string it around the house. And have to or drill a hole through the floor or whatever to get the modem to come up here. But okay, so yeah, Instagram's doing okay. The other thing too is the computer that's over there is an older computer that I'm live streaming off of. It's an old MacBook Pro that I have. Image gets sent to my desktop PC, and then the Mac picks up that stuff afterward, and then it sends it to the internet. I set it that way so I wouldn't have to. I could kind of record a clean screen off of the computer if I wanted to. But we're almost done here anyway. It's been a little over an hour. I usually like to only come on to do the warm-ups for about an hour. But yeah, there's someone commenting over on Twitch. They were saying, "Hey, you're lagging." I'm like, "Oh, hang on." It's hard to kind of keep track. Like, yeah, it's just dropped a bunch of stuff, and it's back again all of a sudden. So I'm not sure what's going on with the connection. I'll have to test it when I'm off in a few minutes. So, but yeah, so those are the things I suggest. Again, I'm not Mr. Comics Pro at all. So, but it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. And then I was working on a concept portfolio update. And as I was working on it, I started really thinking of stories of how it would all fit together. And, events in the history of, kind of like almost like an epic quality, different phases, different time periods that would influence why things are the way they are. And it kind of suggested a lot of stuff to me. So I was like, oh, maybe if I did a comic, wouldn't that be interesting? To me, at least. So, working on a little pitch project, hoping to get that out to publishers. And got this old brushstroke here in the way. Oh, well. Good morning. How's the smart brick doing out there, Lego man? Finally filling up this page all the way, huh? So, yeah, man, it's just dropping all the time. I don't get it. It says it's dropping like 10% of frames, sometimes more. Over on the Twitch side, anyway. I appreciate that. No lies detected, as the kids would say, right? Or something. But one of the things I like to do is fill up a sketchbook page. So, like, literally, like, fill in, like, everything I can. You know, it allows me an opportunity to kind of experiment with stuff and play with, reference or made up things or whatever. They just, like, fill up every square inch of the page or centimeter or whatever. So I get that full page. Plus, this paper is really expensive. So I usually do both sides in this kind of sketchbook. If it's for my research for my own project, I usually do page to page. But a book like this, I'll flip this over and work on the other side. But I like to do these pages where I just kind of fill in all the gaps. So I don't know what it's good for, but that's what I like to do with these. Is just do that. This has got some messy stuff on here too. Hey, Petey. Ready for the spring semester to start? All loaded up. So I think so. I gotta write up a couple of assignments, at least one today, and maybe two for the new class I'm doing, which I haven't done before, but I requested. Hopefully it was a mistake, but I thought it was an opportunity to create stuff for myself in addition to providing students with a elective. So let's fill in some of this stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be an interesting year. Hopefully, get all taken care of. I need to get no problem. Yeah, okay. I'll be around. I'll probably be back on later today. I've got a couple things to do this morning, and then go back to working on where is it? Finishing up inking this page of have an environment experiment there. Make sure it's working properly, and then go from there. Yeah, thanks everybody came in. I appreciate it. I'm gonna call it a warm-up session. We'll talk to y'all later.